just a bunch of like 20-something-year-olds plastered, kids with nowhere to go and nothing to do. Okay, so
True.
another thing not to do in Japan, especially right now, especially 2022, I would guess for 2023. And this applies for everyone, whether you're sick or not. Do not leave your mask at home. You should have a mask on.
Okay, even
And I
if you're
know,
just traveling and
yep,
okay.
I know that this is controversial, and I know that, I know in America no one wears a mask anymore. But in Japan, everyone wears a mask all the time. So there is no law in Japan. There's no mandatory people have to wear a mask. In
Mm,
fact, the government has said if you're outside and you're apart from people, you can take your mask off. You don't need to, but people wear it anyway. People have just do that.
mm-hmm.
And I actually think tourists coming into Japan is going to help people to sway their opinion about that a little bit and make people relax a little bit more, because I know that there's going to be tourists who refuse to put masks on. I've seen them just walking around Shibuya, like not wanting to, or inside stores or whatever. But I will tell you that most people look at that and are really like embarrassed for you. They're like, "Oh my god, this
Oh,
person didn't get the
okay.
memo." Um, like this person doesn't know what they're doing, or like, "Oh, how embarrassing." They're not like paying attention to the social cues happening around them. So it's a double-edged sword, and I think it's up to you kind of in like what you want to do. I would really recommend for people to like look around. If people around you are wearing a mask, you should probably be wearing a mask. Inside, especially, like I think it's a little bit more up in the air if you're outside walking
Right.
around.
Like, cause
Like
could you
I walk
imagine
around
if
my
you're like,
neighborhood.
yeah, if you're out at a park or something like that.
Yeah, like I walk around my neighborhood and I notice people aren't wearing masks, on the way to the station. They just don't have a mask on.
Hmm.
But especially when you get into more crowded places, I notice like more people with masks on. And then inside, everyone always still wears a mask. So
Right, right,
I
right.
would, if you're gonna come here, I would just have one with you and be prepared to put it on. And or like if you don't want to, that's fine. Just know that everyone is silently judging you and like
Silently
embarrassed
judging
for
you.
you.
Right, right,
Oh yeah,
right. Like
100%. Yeah.
I, I'm curious as to so because there's going to be so many new rules for everywhere that you visit. So like in Japan's case, for me, I think a big reason why I pushed off my trip because it was supposed to come out in March. But I also plan on coming out during Golden Week or part of it, which I
Hmm.
hear is a terrible
Ooh,
idea. So I
terrible
just
idea. Yeah,
yeah, I just
don't
like
do
no,
that.
we're not going to do that. We're going to try to come out in the fall of next year.
Hmm.
So what that also does is that gives a year of like tourism happening by then. So a lot of the kinks end up getting worked out,
Yeah,
and it might feel a bit more normal to have tourists come through because as
yeah,
soon as the news broke, you just see it all over social media of like, oh, bought my tickets to Tokyo, oh, going to Japan next month or
yeah,
whatever it is. And I'm like, it's got to be so different now. The just
yeah,
rules of getting on a train, going to a pub, whatever it is.
yeah. I would say I think that's another big don't. Like, don't, if you've been here before, don't expect it to be the same that it has been before. Things have definitely changed. A lot of stuff is still the same. A lot of stuff is
Hmm.
still the same. But even in terms of, I was reading this article, because the tourism industry died out, everyone left those jobs. So, like, they have
Oh,
hotels here, but not enough people to staff them because the
right.
hospitality industry doesn't pay very well. So, if you're Japan is all about excellent service and providing tourists with like a wonderful experience, but it's going to be like Europe was this past summer, just
Okay.
way too full of people who are traveling and not enough people to work, like
That makes
physically not
sense.
enough people to work. And so I think Japan is going to undergo a little bit of that over the next 6 months, for sure,
Mhm.
for sure.
And you
um
even see that in some of the
yeah,
smaller cities out here. I
yeah,
mean, in
yeah,
the Portland area, it's not a very small city, but like so many people left hospitality work, and then during the summer, everyone is out and about. Everyone is doing stuff because it's gorgeous outside, and it's like it's the Northwest in the summertime. No one was staffed enough to
yeah,
like account for how busy it was going to be because everybody was let go, you
yeah.
know, or those restaurants closed or whatever it was. And it's like, how do you recoup from that? Because I came from the restaurant industry and I came from the hospitality business. It's like seeing an influx of people when you're understaffed is so hard to deal with. So
Mm-hmm.
incredibly hard to deal with. So I can only imagine for maybe like a city like Kyoto
Mm.
where it thrives on tourism, like how drastically all of that changed now.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like maybe Tokyo survived a little bit better because maybe other people are traveling in from other cities of Japan to like come to
Mm.
Tokyo. But I don't know. How have you seen it so far?
I think what is interesting is, yeah, it's actually been really depressing, if I'm being
Oh
honest,
no. Yeah.
to just watch businesses close and
Mm-hmm.
just disappear. And
Yeah.
I haven't noticed it so much in Tokyo. Tokyo has kind of remained vibrant more or less, but um you kind of see it in Shibuya a little bit. There's just like at night you're used to having a lot of tourists around, bopping around. If you go at night in Shibuya like a month ago or 2 months ago, it's just a bunch of like 20 something year olds plastered, just, and it's kind of depressing to look at actually. It's like kids with nowhere to go and nothing to do.
So is this something you don't do in Japan? You don't film without permission?
Everything has closed really early. Like that's kind of what we experience here. Everything closed early for a long
Yep.
time.
It's
Restaurants
closing
wouldn't
at
sell
like 7
alcohol.
p.m. or something like that.
Yeah. And so, but Japan is not a city where you stay home. Like Tokyo. I'm not saying, sorry. Japan is a country, not a city.
Yeah.
Tokyo is not really a city where you stay home. Like if you live in Shibuya or Shinjuku or something, you are relying on like the city atmosphere of the
Mm-hmm.
the restaurants being open and the bars being open and stuff, because like a lot of people's apartments are so small that's they go out a lot. And since all of that closed during the pandemic, it just kind of became kind of sad to see people have nowhere to
Just
go and
nowhere to
nothing
go.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of tourism, Japanese tourism, like in Japan, Japanese people love to visit places in Japan. So like
Okay.
more, I would say like more so than even America. Like
Mm-hmm.
like I don't think Americans love to visit other states as much as Japanese people love to visit other prefectures. And like there are
And I think
certain,
that's pretty true. That's
yeah,
pretty true.
and I feel like there's certain like vacation spots in Japan that everyone knows about and really wants to go to. So there are some areas that have really thrived and like, well, they've done okay. Like they've hung on. Like for example, if you go to Niseko up in Hokkaido, which is like a very big skiing area, that's like
Mm-hmm.
where you get the best snow in Japan. That area has managed to do okay, but even still, they are struggling to keep staff on and keep people employed, because there's just such a less number of people that are going. But smaller places, even that are like kind of podunk out of the way places in Japan, have really, really suffered. And like
Yeah.
early on in the pandemic, when the government was really trying to get people to go out and sightsee and stuff, me and my friends took advantage of that because they were offering insane deals, like 50% off of your entire trip if you go to
That's
X, Y,
crazy.
and Z place.
Mm-hmm.
So we were taking advantage, and we were literally in some cases, like the only people staying in the hotel.
That's wild.
And yeah, it's just kind of depressing. You kind of don't realize how fun it is to be around other people until there are no other people there, and then you're
Yeah.
like, this is
Yeah.
what a zombie wasteland feels like.
No, it's totally kind of like even out here, but there was a lot of, in the States, there's a lot of backlash around those rules of
Mm,
whether or not like we would visit friends in certain states, like not going to name any, but like you'd go out and this is middle of maybe like 3 or 4 months after the pandemic stuff and closures, and no one cares about mask rules because like, nope,
yeah,
we'll just deal with
yeah,
it. And it is it's obviously two completely different cultures. So the way I see it though, it's like the how do you recover from that, right? Like closing, so like livelihoods gone
yeah,
basically.
yeah.
And it's kind of sad for me to think about because like coming from that industry, it's so hard to thrive anyways.
Yeah.
And then something like that happens and you're like, what do you even do? The only thing is like if you survived all of that, then you come out the other end way better because now you have a
Mm-hmm.
huge customer base because you were open for people potentially.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
out here, the places that really thrived were like the food truck scene because they
Mm.
were smaller, like mom and pop shops. They could do a lot of
Yeah.
to-go food. People would pop in, order small things, and then they built this customer base up, and now they're like growing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you are right though. Like out here, no one wears masks anymore, whether or not it's indoors or outdoors, for better or worse. But it's still what I've seen is that the restaurant and the hotel industries have bounced back very quickly. Where
Mm.
you have restaurants now paying people very well to be there.
Mm-hmm.
I one of my really good friends, she's making almost 6 figures a year as a server at a nice
Wow.
restaurant. Like,
Wow.
it's wild, right? Because people are
Wow.
going
Yeah.
out and
That's
they want to
crazy.
spend money. It is a nice
Yeah.
restaurant. You know, the average check is like $150 for two people,
Right. Right.
and they're very busy all the time. So, but you're talking about you're a server and you're making like engineer money, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really cool to see that bounce back, but on the other end, it's really sad to hear how like some places haven't been able to kind of like push back and like
Yeah.
win that, right? I think that
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
kind of where like it's at right now.